In the book The Soul of a New Machine by Tracy Kidder, Chapter 1 introduces readers to Tom West and his team at Data General Corporation. It is 1981 and they are tasked with creating an entirely new computer in just 9 months, something that has never been done before. As we follow their journey, it becomes clear how difficult this task will be as there are many obstacles along the way, including tight deadlines, limited resources, and intense competition from rival companies such as IBM. Despite these challenges, however, West's team remained determined to succeed no matter what stands in their way. Through interviews with key players on both sides of the project, including engineers working for Data General, Kidder paints a vivid picture of life inside one of America's most innovative tech firms during its heyday, providing insight into not only how computers were made but also why people chose to dedicate themselves so passionately towards making them work better than ever before. Chapter 2 of The Soul of a New Machine by Tracy Kidder focuses on the people who worked to create Data General's new 32-bit computer. It introduces Tom West, an engineer and leader in charge of designing the machine, Ed Rasala, another key figure involved with its design, Harry Pyle, head programmer for software development, Richard Sogg and John Mosshay from hardware engineering teams, Bob Glorioso as project manager responsible for keeping everyone focused on their tasks at hand. In addition to these main characters are other engineers such as Steve Wallach and Jim O'Leary, whose contributions were essential but not always recognized or appreciated. As they all work together towards creating this revolutionary product, there is tension between different departments due to conflicting ideas about how best approach certain problems, which leads some members feeling frustrated while others remain optimistic that it will be successful despite any obstacles encountered along the way. The chapter begins with the team working on a new machine, which they call Eagle. The engineers are trying to build it as quickly and efficiently as possible in order to beat their competitors. They work long hours and weekends, often sleeping at the office or taking naps during lunch breaks. Tom West leads them through this process of trial and error experimentation, while Richard Shoup provides technical guidance from his experience building computers for Data General Corporation, DGC. Meanwhile, Ed Rasala is responsible for designing software that will make Eagle faster than any other computer available at the time. He works closely with engineer John Woody Culver, who helps him debug code when needed. As tensions rise between DGC's management and its engineering staff over how best to design machines competitively against rival companies like IBM, members of both teams begin defecting back and forth until eventually all but one remain loyal. Rich Whittick stays put despite offers elsewhere because he believes in what they're doing together here, building something revolutionary at last after months of hard labor by everyone involved, including programmers Bob Supnick and Steve Wallach plus many others not mentioned. The first prototype model, called Eagle, was completed. It had taken longer than expected due mainly to problems encountered along the way, such as debugging errors, etc. After some initial testing done internally within company itself, results were promising enough, so decision made send out few models potential customers see if could stand up competition already existing marketplace. This would be true test whether product good enough actually sell public. In end, though even most optimistic projections couldn't predict success, achieved orders came pouring almost immediately upon release date, far more than anyone anticipated. In Chapter 4 of The Soul of a New Machine, the design process begins. Tom West and his team begin to work on designing their new machine by first creating an architecture for it that will allow them to build components in parallel with each other. They then create detailed specifications for all parts of the system, including memory size, processor speed, I/O devices, and more. After this is done, they start building prototypes, which are tested extensively before being sent out into production or discarded if deemed inadequate. Finally, after months of hard work, the final product is ready and shipped off to customers who eagerly await its arrival. The chapter begins with the engineers at Data General working on debugging their new machine, Eagle. The team is divided into two groups: those who are responsible for writing code and testing it in a simulator, and those who work directly on the hardware of the computer itself. Tom West leads this latter group as they attempt to debug every single component of Eagle before its launch date. They use various tools such as logic analyzers, oscilloscopes, signal generators, etc., to identify any problems that may exist within each part or system of Eagle's design. Tom also works closely with other members from both teams in order to ensure that all components interact properly together when assembled into one complete unit, something which proves difficult due to how complexly interconnected everything is inside an electronic device like a computer. This process takes months but eventually yields success after countless hours spent troubleshooting individual parts until finally there were no more bugs left unresolved by either side's combined effort, leading up towards completion just days ahead schedule set out initially by management back then. In Chapter 6, The Triumph of the Soul of a New Machine by Tracy Kidder, Tom West and his team are in the final stages before completion. They have to debug their machine and make sure it works properly with all its components working together as one unit. Despite some setbacks due to hardware problems that had been overlooked earlier on in development, they managed to get everything running smoothly after several days' worth of hard work. Meanwhile, Rich's group is also making progress, but not at quite such an impressive rate. However, both teams eventually finished debugging their machines successfully within 2 weeks from each other, something which was thought impossible when first proposed months ago. Finally, there is only one last hurdle left: getting approval for production from data general executives who will be visiting soon. In Chapter 7, The Aftermath, the Eagle project is completed and Tom West's team celebrates their success. However, they soon realize that there are still many problems to be solved before the machine can go into production. They must debug it thoroughly and make sure all of its components work together properly in order for it to function as intended. Additionally, a number of software issues need to be addressed, such as writing device drivers so that other programs will recognize the new hardware configuration correctly when connected via an Ethernet cable or serial port connection. Finally, marketing plans have yet been made which could determine whether or not this product succeeds commercially once released onto store shelves around America later on down line from now at some point in time eventually, if everything goes according plan accordingly with no hiccups whatsoever along way during process either prior to nor after completion thereof. Chapter 8 of The Soul of a New Machine by Tracy Kidder focuses on the team's efforts to complete their project. As they near completion, tensions rise and tempers flare as everyone works hard to finish in time for the deadline. Tom West leads his team through this difficult period with an iron fist but also shows compassion when needed. He is able to keep morale high despite all odds being against them and eventually succeeds in completing the machine ahead of schedule. In conclusion, Chapter 8 highlights how dedication and leadership can help overcome any obstacle no matter how daunting it may seem at first glance, something that was exemplified perfectly by Tom West's unwavering commitment throughout this chapter, which ultimately led him towards success even under immense pressure from both inside and outside sources alike.